Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Bayou Bets for Thursday, September the 8th, and happy NFL season.
Go for two.
Why not? Why not?
Oh, okay.
R.I.P. to the Queen of England.
Yeah.
Long live the King of England. And now let's do something very American and talk NFL. It begins tonight. Kickoff is in about 3 hours, 7:20 Central Time. Bills at Rams to get us started. And as Spencer just said off the air, it feels like we've been talking about this forever. We've been previewing this for almost 2 months. I think it was July the 13th we started previewing the NFL season. July 12th. Okay, so it has been just 4 days shy of 2 months. But here we are, Bills Rams. We're at the finish line of the preseason.
Can't come soon enough. I am done with previews. I know Spencer is as well. I mean, it was even hard doing NFL picks because it felt like I was doing a preview still. So, even doing Data 2 this morning and talking about it. I mean, we still haven't seen a real live NFL game. So, it'll be good once we get back into the groove and get started. And I am excited about tonight, even if I lose my bet.
And we will talk about bets for tonight. And then in about 15 minutes, Trey Wingo, former ESPN SportsCenter anchor, now a trends officer for Caesar Sportsbook. Trey will join us in about 15 minutes. So looking forward to that. Yes, indeed, Uncle Big Nick. The NFL starts tonight. Bills at Rams. Here's the line, 2.5. Bills are favored. The over-under 52. You guys have a play on this one tonight?
I do.
How could you not? Seriously, how could you not after all that?
You got to. It's our best bet of the day, as a matter of fact. I don't get this line at all. I mean, I guess I understand why it's Bills 2.5, but the defending Super Bowl champions at home on Thursday Night Football, when the defending Super Bowl champion, by the way, has won 8 of the last 9 that they've done on Thursday night. It doesn't make sense to me that this line is super inflated because all the hype that is placed on the Bills. And I think you're getting great value here playing the Rams. And I think the Rams win outright. I did not play the money line. Well, I played the money line small on one spot, but I played I took the 2.5 at one and took the money line on another. And I just think you're getting value. I think this line should be at worst pick 'em. So there you go.
Yeah, it opened as Bills -1, and it's moved in the Bills' direction over the past. I mean, it's been months that it has moved. I hear what you're saying. The Super Bowl champion typically wins this game. They're also typically favored by a touchdown or more. So this is a much tougher opponent than the Super Bowl champion usually gets in this kickoff game. I don't know. I don't really have a play on the spread. My play is on the total tonight. I like the over 52. I think that the Bills defense is a little bit overrated. They're good, but they're not. They were number 1 in the NFL last year. Part of that had to do with bad weather games. Part of that had to do with facing weak opposing offenses. And I think the Rams can exploit that, especially without Tre'Davious White, who's injured. So my play is the over 52. One thing I'm worried about is Buffalo without Brian Daboll, their offensive coordinator. Are they going to run the ball more? We'll see. But I do like the over. Spencer, you got to play tonight on Thursday night?
Yeah, I'm about to play devil's advocate at the gym. I'm playing the Bills tonight. I think the Bills are going to win by a touchdown or more. I'm buying the Josh Allen hype. I mean, he might not be top 20 of all time, but he's definitely one of the top 5 in the game right now, and definitely a leg up over Matthew Stafford, who's coming off. And they said today it came out that he had an elbow procedure done this all season. I think he's going to be a little rusty. I know he's got Cooper Kupp. But Van Jefferson's out. Cam Akers could still be a little rusty. I know he came back from the Achilles in the playoffs, but he looked bad. So I think he might be a little rusty still. I don't like the Rams tonight. I think they're gonna have a Super Bowl hangover in this one, and that's why I'm liking the Bills. I think they're gonna come out fire and have the chip on their shoulder after the way their season ended early last year thanks to a coin flip. So give me the Bills tonight.
If you would like to place, you're on mute, Jim.
Problems there, so I hope I missed most of what you guys just said, but I just heard the end of Spencer. So, Zach,
we were just saying that you're old.
Yeah, I am old. There's no question. the hype on the Bills is just insane. They're not
Bills Mafia.
Listen, if you have a play on the game tonight on Bills and Rams, drop it in the comments. Let us know what you think. Bills minus 2.5. The Rams plus 115 on the money line. The over-under is 52. Game kicks off at 7:20. And if you'd like to actually make some money on that pick and you haven't signed up yet, sign up for the Caesars Sportsbook app at NOLA.com/Caesars. And you get your first bet. You bet on anything tonight and lose, you get the money back and can bet again on Sunday up to $1,250. So sign up if you haven't already. NOLA.com/Caesars. Great time to do it. The new season is here. And we're just 3 days away, also incidentally, from the Saints, which we'll talk about in a minute. Also want to remind you guys, James Carville has his weekly picks. So if you haven't already, sign up for subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. We have James Carville every Thursday on there, as well as this show. Give us a like, a subscribe, a comment over there on the new Bayou Bets YouTube channel. And also sign up for our newsletter. Get all of the links to everything we do in your inbox every morning. Go to NOLA.com/Bayou Bets, put in your email address, and that's how you get all of our coverage. Guys, Saints this weekend. Again, something we've been talking about for a long time. It seems like the Sean Payton stepping down news was a year ago. It was only about 6 months ago. So it seems like it was a long time ago. Dennis Allen's first game as Saints head coach is in Atlanta against the Falcons. Saints minus 5.5. Jim, your NFL picks column, people should go read it, but you think this one's tight.
I do. I think Saints and Falcons is normally tight. I realize the Falcons are probably in for a long year. So I hope that people don't gauge what they see for either team by this first game. But I think that the Saints are in for a long day. I think they will win the game, but I think it's going to be tight. I would not play this in a knockout pool. It scares me. It wouldn't shock me if the Saints lost.
Oh, we just lost you again, Jim. I think your mic's out. So, Spencer, you can't hear him, can you?
Yeah, no, I don't think he realizes it either.
Yeah, Jim, your mic's out. But listen, Spencer, this is there's a lot of unknowns. We talked about it with Luke Johnson on Tuesday, and the Saints, I think that they're better than the Falcons, but I don't know that they're better than the Falcons. I don't know that they're going to come out hitting on all cylinders in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll be some bumps in the road. It's the injuries. Michael Thomas still questionable. Think he'll suit up, but might be limited. So there's just the secondary has its concerns. The linebackers, Pete Werner, banged up is somewhat concerning. So it might be a little bumpy, like Jim was saying. I admit that, but I do feel like the Saints will get in a rhythm at some point in the second half where they should be able to cover this and win by 6 or more, which is a part of that's what Alvin Kamara, I think, is going to do really well in this contest. The last time he faced Atlanta at the end of last season, he tore him up, and I think he'll do the same here on Sunday. He's actually one of my top player prop values. A little teaser for that. I'll have that out later today. My top prop plays and matchups to watch. He's on that because I think he's going to do really well and help carry the Saints to a fairly significant win. I don't think double digits, but I think by like 6 or 7.
Jim Derry having some technical issues, working to get him back. But yeah, I think that line's about right. It's 5.5. I think it could be close either way on that. The other South Louisiana team of note, Southern and LSU. The Tigers, this is a hypothetical line. The real line won't come out until tomorrow, maybe even Saturday morning. But Caesars Sportsbook hypothetical line, LSU minus 38.5 over Southern. And by the way, Jim's back, so I don't think it is a battle of the bands at halftime. Apparently, it's a joint performance.
Oh, well, that's what we were trying to talk them into doing.
So
by the way,
can
you guys hear me, by the way?
We can't hear you
good now.
Yeah.
I had to ditch the microphone and go with the computer audio. We'll figure out that.
Go with the Nat sound.
Exactly.
Nat sound in
but that's okay.
area.
The Golden Band from Tigerland will make the Southern Band look really good.
There are people out there who would fight you over that comment. I'm not one of them, but I'm just going to stare at you.
Yeah, it's like, come on, I don't know much about the bands, but I do.
Well, then, if you don't know much, then you can't speak on it.
I know enough. I know
I'll
enough.
say,
You're from Albuquerque.
I've seen both bands play several times. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I have a musical ear, very musical ear. Only the best ear. All right.
Well, I was in the middle of it all, and I appreciate the love.
And this is not to knock on the Golden Band from Tigerland. Very good. So it's just different. That's all. Southern and LSU. Any take on the line on this one, guys? If it does end up being this, LSU's lost. I have to go look it up. It's like 8 or 9 in a row against the spread when they're favored by more than 35 points. Not a real good record, but it's so hard with these big spreads.
I flipped a coin and landed on LSU. I don't like this. I mean, who would bet on that? I mean, you got to be a sicko to bet on that. I mean, really. I mean,
degenerates, man.
I mean, like, you got to be a true degenerate, like a degenerate.
I mean, the only thing I will say is that if the real line comes in and let's say it's 8 or 10 points higher than that, it's 46 or something, I would consider betting Southern just from the standpoint of if LSU just dominates the first half and Southern's pretty good, by the way, so I don't know that this will happen. Southern's pretty good for a SWAC team. If they're up 45-0 at halftime, doesn't Brian Kelly just call off the dogs? I mean, this is supposed to be a community game. This is supposed to be welcoming your crosstown rival, that sort of thing. First time you've ever played them in football. I don't think they want to necessarily win by 50 points. That doesn't mean they won't, but
after last week.
If it gets a lot high, but don't you just it's 49-7.
Week.
Did that. I guess the danger is what if it's 55-0 at halftime, and then but I just don't think it will be. I don't think Southern is that far behind.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
but it's tough.
You forced me to make a pick in the Carville picks, and I changed 2 of my picks after I did them, and this was one of them. I had Southern at first, and I'm like, I just think LSU is going to be pissed off and ready to play some whoop whatever down.
This is the line we're using, and I took LSU as well because I think about 42 is probably the right line. But anyway, there are other college games to keep your interest until that one kicks off on Saturday. And by the way, we are about 5-6 minutes away from Trey Wingo joining us here for our big NFL preview. So I just want to get some college games out of the way here. Alabama -20 at Texas. Line started at 19, immediately moved up to 20, but it's just stuck right there. It hasn't gotten to that key marker of 21 yet.
Oh, that's great. I hate when I'm with Aunt Mabel. I guess I am here. I mean, this is the second one that I went back and forth on, and I took Texas at first, and I'm like, I can't pick against Alabama, even if it is 20 points. And so I'd rather lose the pick than pick against Alabama, because if I pick Texas and got it wrong, I'll be ticked off. If I pick Alabama and they have a tight one, or if I lose, then I'm not going to be that upset about it. So hence I took Alabama. But another game I don't think you can really bet on. That spread is too wide, and I don't think we know enough about the 2 teams that are playing yet to be able to bet on that.
Yeah, I mean, we know more about Alabama than we do Texas, but Texas is kind of a mystery. The other thing that I'll say is that usually if you want to bet on Alabama, Spencer, you've got to pay this like Crimson Tide tax because everybody wants to bet on them. And so even if you like them, it's like you think the line should be 24 and it comes in at 27.5. And you're like, I don't know if I can bet them, or you think it's going to be 20 and it comes in at 24. And it always makes you think twice. I don't feel like 20 is that much of a tax here.
Yeah, that's what I
kind of thought it would come higher than 21.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I noticed the overs, like the over-unders, like going up a lot toward the over. It's like the open, I think, at like 52, and it's now at like 55, to where like that's been going up a lot. But the line itself is just kind of stagnant. But yeah, I like Bama here. I'm thinking, the new Texas quarterback. Hey, he's really talented, Quinn Ewers, but he's going to get his welcome to college football this week from Nick Saban and that defense. It's going to be a long day for him, I feel, and I think Bama's going to win that by well over 20.
Man, 55 doesn't seem high enough, does it? Alabama's going to score 40 by itself.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Or maybe it was 65. Maybe I was wrong. It might be 65.
The CBS Sim score was like 48 to 20 something.
Yeah, it's probably 65 actually.
That's a pretty big difference there, Spencer.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
gonna
been looking at NFL lines, which one is
take the
high,
over
so yeah, it's probably
55 all
60.
day
Yeah,
long.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Well, I'm going to check on that as we go here. It is 65 and a half, 65
Okay,
and a half.
okay.
So yeah,
My bad.
yeah, that sounds a little bit more right. Other games, any that catch your eye here? A couple of SEC games: South Carolina at Arkansas, Kentucky at Florida. Um, Jim, Florida, that line is too much for me.
I love Kentucky. Uncle Big Nick and I talked about it this morning. We both agreed. In fact, it's one of his picks of the week. He takes Kentucky. In fact, when he took it, it was 5.5. So I really like Kentucky here. I think that that Florida is going to be all emotion spent, emotionally drained coming into this one, and it's easy to overlook a Kentucky team that I think is really good. And so I don't think Florida is as good as they looked last week, and really got lucky to beat Utah. If they lose that game, this line's more like 3. They should have lost the game. I think you're getting great value by taking Kentucky here.
Yeah, and Spencer and I are on opposite sides of Baylor BYU. We'll talk about that when we do Big Bucks to end the show. But what do we make of another line that's just stuck right where it started all week? Tennessee -6 at Pitt. Volunteers under Josh Heupel. Boy, they beat up on bad teams. When they play better teams, they tend to struggle a little bit. That's one I'm staying away from.
Yeah, I probably won't touch it either because I think they should cover it, but you just never know with Tennessee. They're one of those teams that's just is hard to trust when they play formidable opponents. So yeah, I'd probably stay away too.
I like Tennessee in that one, and I think they win big.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I'd pick Tennessee, but it just gives me pause.
I'm afraid at how many underdogs I like this week, Cross. So that's why I'm gonna take Tennessee out of the lift because they're favored. So I like so many underdogs this week, which is really kind of unusual for a week one. It's week 2 in college football, but usually in the first week, I like to take favorites because kind of know what you're getting. And in my NFL picks column, I ended up having a lot of underdogs that I don't feel comfortable with. But week one's always weird, and the schedule was super weird this week in the NFL. I know we'll get to it in a minute, but super weird NFL schedule this week.
Yeah, you're watching Bayou Bets here on bet.nola.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Bayou Bets. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. We are awaiting Trey Wingo, Caesars Trends Officer. He's going to be with us in just a couple of minutes to help preview the NFL. These games are all on Sunday for the NFL. This is what's coming ahead. And Jim, it's not, you like a lot of underdogs. There are, I think, 16. So the 16 games in the NFL, there's either 10 or 11 road favorites.
Yeah.
And if the Browns Panthers line's moving to a pick'em, that would be another one. If that jumps the fence and gets to be the Browns. So it's a weird week.
I already have the Browns. I think the Browns win that game straight up. I think that too much is being made of the Baker Mayfield revenge BS. The Browns are still, even without Deshaun Watson, they're still a really good football team. And they have great skill players, and they have an excellent defense. So, I still think the Browns are the better football team. We'll see how much impact Christian McCaffrey has with the Panthers, how quick he can mesh with Baker Mayfield. The game that I really like on here the most is the Patriots. There's way too much hype on Tua, and just because he's got Tyreek Hill, and that's great for fantasy football, but I don't understand why the Patriots aren't getting any love. And I think the Patriots win that game straight up. They've been in Miami most of the week, getting accustomed to there. I know they don't normally play all that well in Miami, but the fact that they've been able to go there all week and prepare, I think really helps them. And I like the Patriots to win that game outright. So that is one of the top picks in my pick'em, as well as Bucks and Cowboys. Another line I don't understand. The Bucks have their issues. I know both teams are struggling with their offensive line woes, but the Cowboys and Bucks to me are about even. The Bucks may be slightly ahead, but for them to be given 2.5 at Jerry World means that if this game were to be played in Tampa, it would be more along the lines of a touchdown, and that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. They played last year in Week 1. Dallas barely lost. I think they're close, and I really think Dallas is going to win that game. I think Dallas is the better. I think by the end of the season, Dallas will be a better team at least. In Dak, I trust, and that's my favorite play of the week.
Brian Brown says, "Go Saints." Saints open in Atlanta. I'm on the other side of that one from you, Jim. I think the Bucs actually win that game. I feel like that's a team where I'm not real high on them season long, but it's like the anti-hype. Everybody seems to think the Bucs are going to take this huge step back. They still get Tom Brady, and say what you want about Tom Brady, whether he'll be ready to go or whatever. They also still have one of the best defensive lines in football. You mentioned the Cowboys' offensive line problems. I see that as a mismatch, and it could be the mismatch that flips this game in the Bucs' favor. But we'll see. And I think Saints fans would clearly take the loss.
There's also anti-hype on the Cowboys. So you're pitting two teams against one another that no one likes. I mean, and I say no one likes. I mean, the Bucs are still the favorites in the NFC to win the NFC. So the hype's, it's not like they've lost all their hype, but they've got issues with their skill receivers. Chris Godwin coming off of an ACL injury, who's probably going to play, but he can't be 100%. Russell Gage is banged up. Mike Evans is always banged up. Leonard Fournette is one little twist of an ankle away from coming out of a game. Who knows? And it happens all the time. And Tom Brady I'm waiting to see how focused he's going to be. So, but to me, that is, I could see you feeling that way. I mean, I don't, it's irrational. You went through it rationally in my mind, but it's just, I think it's going to be one of the most interesting games of the week. And a game you didn't put on there, I think is going to be the most fun game of the week, is Detroit and Philadelphia. And I think there could be a ton of points scored in that game. I think both of those teams have some great skill players. If Jared Goff even plays like a 19th or 20th ranked quarterback, the Lions are going to be a really good football team this year, and people are overlooking them. I know there's a lot of hype because they've been on HBO's show and all that stuff.
Hard Knocks, yeah.
Hard Knocks. I haven't even watched it, but I think Jalen Hurts and his new weapon with AJ Brown, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, along with the Saints being played on the Red Zone channel, I'll be looking every time they put the Lions and Eagles up there because I think it's going to be like a pinball game.
It might be on a lot. WTF says hit the like button. If you haven't, WTF, man. Got to hit that like button for us. Subscribe on Bayou Bets YouTube channel. It's brand new. Need to get you in there. That's where we'll be posting the James Carville video every week, as well as all of our Bayou Bets episode and some live videos from Saints games throughout the season. So check that out. We're waiting on Trey Wingo. He is going to help us preview the NFL. But in the meantime, guys, let's get going a little bit on that. Look, I guess we got to make our official Super Bowl picks here because we haven't quite done that yet. So what we need is an AFC champ, an NFC champ, and the Lombardi Trophy holder at the end of the year. And there is a lot of different directions you could go here. NFL Network had a graphic the other day where they had like 10 experts and all 10 picked the Buffalo Bills.
All 10 of them.
Ridiculous. Like, I like the Bills too. I think the Bills may have the best team. If you had asked me at the end of last season, I might have picked the Bills. There's no way I'm picking the Bills now that everybody else is.
I wrote that in my column.
Yeah. There's something wrong when everybody likes the same team. So, Spencer, you got a take on a Super Bowl? And yeah, y'all drop in your comments. Kyle says Ravens versus Saints in his Super Bowl. Spencer, who's your Super Bowl?
All right, yeah, I'll go ahead and rock the chalk with the Bills. I'm not. I'll do it.
He's not scared.
I'm not. I'm not scared off. Yeah, I think there's a reason why everyone's going with them. It's because they've got one of the best rosters we've seen in a while as far as being complete on both sides, having a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. They reinforced the defense with Von Miller. We know what they've got on offense, to where I just don't see anyone else in the AFC knocking them off. I think the Chiefs take a little step back this year. I don't think the Chargers are quite ready to take that step. The Bengals are definitely going to take a step back. Baltimore could be in the mix, but I just don't know with Lamar Jackson, his playoff track record, not too good. So I'm going to go with Buffalo in the AFC. And NFC, I'm going with the 49ers. I think the Niners with their defense, even if Trey Lance is a little inconsistent, should be able to get there. And that'll be a fun matchup if it happens, Josh Allen, Trey Lance.
They can't run the football. They couldn't before, which is a big reason why they didn't get to the Super Bowl. It's going to be why they don't get to the Super Bowl again. They're certainly the best team in the AFC East, but they're not the best team in the AFC. I mean, I don't even think they're the best team in the AFC, much less going to get to the Super Bowl. Not to say that a 1 seed needs to get to the Super Bowl, but to jump the boat before you even introduced me, Zach, because I couldn't wait. I mean, I just don't get it about Buffalo. There is nothing different about this Buffalo team.
Von Miller.
Von Miller is older than Zach.
He was still a huge piece of the Rams last year.
I wouldn't say he was a huge piece. I think that somebody named Aaron Donald had a little bit something to do with that defense. I love it when all of the media jumps on one team, because to me that means it ain't going to happen. And so I agree with you with San Francisco. That has been my pick from really the end of last season. I like San Francisco in the NFC, and I still do. I've got some futures on them. The AFC, there's still a team called the Kansas City Chiefs who are pretty darn good. And I'm gonna take them. I think it's Chiefs Niners, and I think the Niners win the Super Bowl. Don't let Uncle Big Nick hear that I said that. But I think I think by the end, I think the Niners have the most wins in the NFL this year. I have them with 12 wins. They could have 13, even though they have a tough schedule. And I think they win. I think they're the 1 seed in the NFC, and I think they beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
All right, I'm going to save my Super Bowl pick for the end because we do have Trey Wingo here, Caesar Sportsbook ambassador and former ESPN Sports Center anchor. Trey, thank you for being here.
Well, first of all, let me just say that was one of the greatest diatribes I have heard in a long time from Jim. I mean,
Jim's good at that. Yeah,
that was money, and he ain't wrong. And we looked it up at Caesar Sportsbook. Since 1995, only 3 times has the preseason favorite went on to win the Super Bowl. So, Jim, keep preaching, baby. I love everything you're doing, pal.
They call me Diatribe Derry. That's what they do, Trey.
Well, look, man, I'm with you. Like, for example, I'm kind of with you. Let me be clear about that.
Okay.
I think the Bills are a really good team, and I think things have changed, and I think Von Miller is going to be a huge impact for them. I think they run the ball enough. I don't think they run the ball great, but they run the ball enough, and Josh Allen has to be factored into part of that rushing attack because of his mobility and strength with his legs. But all that being said, until you beat Kansas City owns you, okay? And, yeah, they beat them in the regular season last year, but they drummed them twice in 2 straight playoffs. And if the Chiefs just kick a field goal at the end of the first half of the AFC Championship game, we're talking about a team that's going to 3 straight Super Bowls. And I will also argue that I think even with the loss of Tyreek Hill, this offense is going to be more difficult to defend in 2022 with all the weapons they have.
Agreed. Juju.
Well,
Trey, let's
Juju. Real quickly, Zach.
Moore?
Yeah.
No. I mean, yeah, he's great. The most underrated signing of the entire offseason is Marquez Valdez-Scantling, okay? This kid, if you go looking back and how they used him in Green Bay, over the top, he's much bigger than Tyreek. He ain't Tyreek fast. Nobody is. But he has a bigger catch radius. So now you have not only Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but I think Mecole Hardman's going to get more play. And I think Mecole is going to be the player that they thought he would be when they drafted him in 2019. So now you have options, okay? It's not just about taking Tyreek off the top and trying to clog the middle and stop Travis Kelce. They have 2 tight ends. This kid, Fortson, is really good. He's not Travis Kelce good, but he gives them 2 options over the middle. Juju's going to eat over the middle. Then you bring in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and you have Mecole Hardman. And now let's throw in Sky Moore as your Mr. Gizmo, Mr. Gadget guy. I think the Chiefs' offense is going to be more difficult to defend across the board than they have over the last couple of years.
Trey, do you think the Chiefs will be able to run the ball, though? Because I know they're saying the Bills have that concern, but the Chiefs' running game to me looks even worse. I don't really trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Do you think maybe the rookie Pacheco could do it for him?
How dare you insult an LSU legend like Clyde Edwards-Helaire? What are you thinking,
He's
How
killed
dare
me.
you?
He's killed me in fantasy football. I had to do it.
Listen, they took him at a 1 because they didn't know what else to do a couple of years ago in the 2020 draft. I think he's a fine complementary player. I will tell you this. The player nobody talks about when they talk about the Chiefs running game is Jerick McKinnon.
Absolutely.
The kid that they got halfway through the year last year. And he was amazing. And because he's a running back and because he's slightly seasoned, for lack of a better term, they got him back for a literal song. And I think the combination of Helaire, the kid, Pacheco, and McKinnon back, I think they're going to be formidable enough to run the ball. Andy Reid forgets to run the ball like in half the games anyway. Like that's his modus operandi. That playoff game a few years ago when Travis Kelce was out with a concussion, they had Kareem Hunt and I think they gave him 4 touches in the second half, and they lost that game. So Andy Reid seems to forget the run every once in a while, but I am not out on Kansas City in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Trey. I do want to start with tonight's game, so let's pivot
Sure.
back to the Bills. Bills 2.5-point favorites in LA. 19th time the NFL has done this kickoff game. In the 18 previous times, this is only the second time that the Super Bowl champion has been the home underdog. So there's a trend for the trends officer. But I mean, most of the time they're not playing a team as good as Buffalo either. What are you watching for tonight?
Well, you're right. I mean, like the NFL did the Rams no favors here. Like for example, last year the Bucs had the Cowboys at home to start the season. And it was a close game. If the Cowboys had any semblance of a kicking game, they probably would have won that game instead of losing it 31-29. But this might be like, I think when they first started the Thursday night game, the Colts went back to Foxborough after Super Bowl 38. And that was a great game, 27-24. Other than that, it's kind of been like, hey, defending champs, ease into the season. Let me give you a sacrificial lamb. Like the year the Colts won the Super Bowl 41, the next year their home opener was against the Saints. And you look on the lineup and say, Drew Brees, all this, it's great. Yeah, but the Colts that offseason watched Jason David, a cornerback, go into free agency and sign with the Saints. And I had Jeff Saturday on a show I did on Monday night. We talked about this. They made a plan out of targeting Jason David in that game, and they wore his you-know-what out in that game. And they won
You're trying to
pretty
piss
easily.
us off, Trey?
A little bit.
It's working. It's working.
A little bit. So this is the hardest, really, opener for the defending champs that I can think of in a long time, guys. The Bills are interesting. They're 10-3 straight up and 10-2-1 against the spread in the last 3 years over NFC teams. But last year, as good as they were only 2-4 straight up and against the spread against playoff teams. They didn't do great against playoff teams that eventually made the playoffs. So I think we all think the Rams at least are going to find a way back into the postseason. This is a real legitimate test for them to try and find out who they are, because I think it's right for the Bills to be favored in this game. I really do, because you have Von Miller on the other side. Andrew Whitworth is retired. Odell Beckham is not there at the moment. He may be back at some point with one of these two teams. Will Allen Robinson be able to fill in opposite Cooper Kupp? Who, by the way, was a guest today on my Half Forgotten History podcast, which I dropped. Go check that out when you can. So there are some legit question marks about the Rams as defending champs going into this game. And by the way, you mentioned it's only the second time or the third time they've been underdogs. There was also the home teams are 15-2 in this sort of Thursday night opener. The Giants lost to the Cowboys after Super Bowl 46, and the Patriots lost to the Chiefs after Super Bowl 51. But the other game that nobody remembers is when the Ravens won Super Bowl 47 in New Orleans, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, the blackout Super Bowl. They had to go on the road that year to start because the Orioles got all pissy because they wouldn't want to share parking space on a Thursday night because they had a game scheduled. So the frickin' Ravens had to open up on the road, and Peyton threw 5 second-half touchdown passes, threw 7 in the game, and the Ravens lost 49-27. That was the year that Peyton went on to throw 55 touchdown passes, which, by the way, still is the record despite people having another game to try and get there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of history with this game, and the matchups, I think, have gotten better and better. NFL-wide, it's a quarterbacks league. It will always be a quarterbacks league. That's always the storylines. Seems to me that especially this year, you talked about Mahomes, also Lamar Jackson trying to prove that these guys are like 25 years old, and we're talking about them being passed by Allen and Herbert. You also have, of course, Baker Mayfield going to Carolina, the Deshaun Watson saga, Matthew Stafford finally breaking through last year. Here in New Orleans, Jameis Winston trying to come back and prove that he's still a legitimate starting quarterback. I mean, it just seems like everywhere you look, there's a brilliant, like, career-defining year coming up for a lot of guys, or not.
Yeah, potentially. Like, I'm curious to see what happens with let's start with Baker, or let's start with Baker in Carolina. There's no doubt that Baker can do what you need to do. I don't think that that's an issue. The issue is, can he stay healthy enough to do it? Like, the problem with Baker, which is something he cannot change, is that he's small and a little slow. Like, if you're small like Kyler Murray, but you're fast like Kyler Murray. Okay, that works for you. Baker is small, but he's not fast. And if he's healthy, he's the Baker Mayfield of 2020 that got them to the postseason, won a playoff game over the Pittsburgh Steelers, and had them in that divisional round game after Patrick Mahomes got concussed against the Browns. But can you count on Baker being healthy? And it's not a knock on Baker. I want to be clear. The one thing that holds Baker back is the thing that he has no control over at all, and that's his ability as a smaller, slower dude to withstand the punishment. Deshaun Watson, what a mess. What a disaster. I don't think he should be playing at all this year, but I think the NFL, in the spirit of trying to be cooperative with the NFLPA, this was the first case through this new system that they have. They could have easily said, we want the entire year and we'll go through the court system, and they would have gotten it because of the Tom Brady Deflategate situation. The precedent was there. They could have suspended Deshaun Watson for as long as they wanted to. And I think Brown fans should be thankful that it's only 11 games, because they could have gotten a year and a half, whatever they wanted. You mentioned Lamar. That's the one that I find the most interesting, because you can say the Deshaun Watson numbers screwed it up, and they did. Everybody hates the Browns right now. They do. They hate the Browns. Every front office hates the Browns for that contract. But if you're the Ravens and you really wanted this deal done, or if you're Lamar Jackson and you really wanted this deal done, it would have been done by now, right? It would have been done. They both don't want this deal done yet. And why is that? I think Lamar wants it because I'm better than Deshaun Watson, so I get more money. I understand that. But what's the hesitation for the Ravens? They have built this offense around Lamar Jackson ever since they drafted him. There's not a receiver on the Ravens roster, guys. A receiver, not tight ends. A receiver on the Ravens roster that has more than 53 career receptions. They are not a team that's going to throw the ball down the field all night long. They're going to hand it off to hopefully healthier running backs than last year. They're going to work the middle of the field with the 47 tight ends that they have on their roster. And they're going to count on Lamar Jackson's legs to make plays. So why haven't they gotten this deal done yet?
I think he probably wants to test the waters as much as the Ravens are still trying to figure out exactly what they want to do. I mean, I'm sure
they can Kirk Cousins him for a couple of years,
I mean, ask John Harbaugh, and I guarantee you he wants Lamar Jackson back, but that doesn't mean the administration does.
It's interesting. He's an MVP. He's taken you to multiple postseasons. He's won a postseason. It's not like he hasn't done all of those things with the team that you constructed around him. This deal should be done. The only reason it's not done is both the Ravens and Lamar are hesitant at this time, which I find fascinating.
I have two quick questions for you, Trey, and both in the AFC. How much, to me, as much as I love Russell Wilson, and I really like Cortland Sutton, and I really like Jerry Jeudy, but to me, him going in there, I don't understand why people think it makes that much of a difference and why their win total is so skewed, in my opinion. And then secondly, I'd like to talk about Pittsburgh and how long is it before Kenny Pickett is the starting quarterback there?
Well, number one, let's start with the Broncos, because the other options were Drew Lock and
I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it. I'm just not sure it makes that much win-wise.
Well, here's what I would say. Over the last few years under Vic Fangio, who's not there anymore, obviously, nobody's defense played the Chiefs better than the Denver Broncos. You go look at the scores of those games. They were drag-out, knockdown fights, and the Chiefs had to scrap for every point that they could get on the board. So you had a competent quarterback. Now, the loss of Tim Patrick hurts a lot because, Jeudy has been hit and miss. I like Cortland Sutton, but when you have three guys that you have to worry about, that's a big deal.
And Noah Fant.
And Noah Fant, absolutely. So there's a lot of options there. And I just think a competent quarterback is going to help them. Now, the other side of that is, the AFC West is like an Avenger movie, guys. We need another superstar. Let's get him in here. Another multi-millionaire.
Right.
We need another one. Bring him in,
Right.
So that's the biggest issue. I will say this. I would really be comfortable putting substantial chips on the table week 1, Monday night, in Russell Wilson's debut. It's only the 6th time in the Pete Carroll era that the Seahawks are an underdog at home by 6 or more points, and they got nothing. But let's be honest about this. Geno Smith is the starting quarterback,
baby.
but that was not the plan. Okay, I can tell you for a fact the Seahawks have been in love with Drew Lock since 2019. They almost drafted him in the 2019 draft. That's how much they love Drew Lock. Then he sucked, and they were like, "Oh shit, we got to go back to Geno Smith." Now Geno Smith played better than Drew Lock, so he earned it. I'm casting no aspersions against Geno Smith, but he started 29 games his first 2 years in the league, 2013 and 2014. Since the 2015 season, Geno Smith has started a grand total of 7 games. You had him already. If you thought he was the answer, you don't make the trade for Drew Lock. They were absolutely hoping Drew Lock would beat out Geno Smith. And he didn't. The second half of that question, Kenny Pickett. I think it's going to be a while. I do. Everybody I talked to last year in Buffalo absolutely raved about Mitch Trubisky as Josh Allen's backup. They could not say enough good things. Now it's going to come together with him playing well as Pittsburgh gets going. But I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, guys. I really, really do. And sometimes, it was never Mitchell Trubisky's fault that the Bears screwed it up and took him ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. And we talked about Watson has his own issues, but as a quarterback, it's not close so far in their NFL careers. Deshaun Watson's a much better quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is going to the Hall of Fame. So all of that was a burden that the team put on him, beginning all of that. And Matt Nagy was in over his skis a little bit. Yeah. I think he goes – Mike Tomlin, guys, has never had a losing season. Like, in the history of the NFL, no one has gone this long in their career. Not Bill Belichick, not Don Shula, not Tom Landry. None of those guys have gone without a losing season. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's like he knows what he's doing. And you see the Steelers' success of drafting receivers outside of the first round, going back to Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Juju. All those guys were taken outside the second round by the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to surround him with enough talent. And I think George Pickens. I think Chase Claypool. He's going to do a lot better than people think. The Steelers are going to have their struggles this year, but I don't think Trubisky's going to be the problem everyone thinks. Trubisky, I don't think he's going to be the problem everyone thinks he's going to be.
Yeah, speaking of weapons, I'd like to ask you, Trey, about a team with a lack of weapons. From what it appears, the Green Bay Packers. They've Aaron Rodgers, who's back-to-back MVP, but no more Devontae Adams and a lot of injuries to that receiving core. Lazard questionable for this week. How do you think that affects him? Do you still think Green Bay's a team to beat in the NFC North, or does the lack of weapons now make Minnesota the team to beat?
Real quickly, I think Nick just asked a question, would Mahomes if he was drafted by Chicago? And let me tell you, that's a great point, because I believe Mahomes is a transcendent talent. But the fact that he went to Andy Reid, who every quarterback has a great career playing for Andy Reid, like every one of them. Michael Vick had his best years playing for Andy Reid. Donovan McNabb had his best careers. Alex Smith had his best years playing for Andy Reid. Kevin Kolb had his best years playing for Andy Reid. Where you go matters. Mahomes' talent goes with him, but it's so much about more than just talent. It's about the coaching you get. It's about the players you're surrounded. So I just wanted to point that out. And that was a great point that Nick brought up there. So your question again was about what were we talking about? Oh, Green Bay. Yeah. Look, they're banking on their quarterback making their receivers, and I believe in that philosophy. I believe in that. No, Kyle Rogers is not going to throw the ball to himself. The only quarterback to throw a touchdown to himself in the NFL is Marcus Mariota in a playoff game for the Titans against the Chiefs in 2017. I think the Packers are going to be fine, because I don't think there's another team that's great in that division. I think the Vikings
also did it, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the Vikings are going to surprise a lot of people. I think the Lions are going to surprise a lot of people. Green Bay's they're not going to be the number one seed. They're not going to win 13, 14, 12 games, but they'll win their double-digit games based on their quarterback and their defense. But you're right. It's gonna be a struggle out of the gate for the Green Bay Packers. I don't think they're going to get off to a 4-0, 5-1, 6-2 start. They're going to have to ease into who they're going to be, and that relationship between Rodgers and basically outside of Lazard, a whole new batch of receivers is going to take time.
Well, Trey, we would be remiss if we did not ask you for a sort of a final opinion, because I know we did it earlier in the offseason, but about the New Orleans Saints. Um, Definitely a crossroad season for them with Sean Payton out, Dennis Allen in, Pete Carmichael calling the plays. But they were 9-8 last year with playing four quarterbacks.
7,000 players. Like, they set the record for most players because of COVID
Ready to sign guys off the street. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it was bad, and they still went 9-8. Now, obviously, that's credit to Sean Payton. But as we look at some of the Saints' odds at Caesars, what do you make of this team, and what's their ceiling?
Guys, I'm bullish on New Orleans. I really am. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. Let's not forget that before Jameis blew out his knee in that win at the Dome over the Bucs, they were 6-2. They were 6-2 after that win. I think the Kamara situation is going to linger and may happen after the season, which helps them dramatically. If Michael Thomas comes back and is anywhere close to what he was in 2019, that's a huge win. I'm bullish on Olave potentially being the offensive rookie of the year because of the situation. Like, to me, when you look at those awards, you always have to say who's on the better team and who's in the best position to contribute based on everything around him. Well, if Michael Thomas is close to 2019, and that's a big if at this point, because you never know until he comes out there and proves it. But if he can be that productive, you got Olave on the other side of that. He's going to get a lot of action. They're going to double Michael Thomas, and he's going to have a lot of free reign to do what he wants. Then you bring in Kamara. You bring back Winston, who, outside of one really bad throw week 2 against the Panthers, was not the Jameis Winston 30 for 30 that he was in 2019 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like Dennis Allen. And look, he's a friend of mine. I had him on my show recently with Mark Schlereth on Spotify Live upon further review, Mondays at 6 o'clock. Check it out. I believe in Dennis, and I think the team believes in Dennis. Like, over the last couple of years, guys, the Saints have transitioned from a incredible offensive team to an offense that's good enough and a really good defense. DeMario Davis, those kind of guys have been absolutely outstanding. Their front seven is really good. I love the signing of Tyrann Mathieu. I love the pickup of Juice Landry. Those are signings, guys, by a team that believes they are going to win. Everyone hopes they can win, and the goal is to win. But how you treat personnel tells you what your team believes about themselves. Those kind of signings lead me to believe that the Saints believe they're going to win. And Tom Brady, unless he actually is the son of Satan, eventually will fall off a little bit. I mean, he might be the son of the devil. I don't know. He might have sold his soul. I can see that. I mean, he looks 17. It's crazy how that happens.
He's married to
reverse aging. He's reversing.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you do that. But
he's a claymation man. Yeah,
exactly. They have some injuries up front on the offensive line. They've lost, Alex Kappa in free agency. Ali Marpet retired. Ryan Jensen is down. They're going to have to find. I mean, they had 4 offensive linemen that played 16 games last year, or 17 games, and Wirfs, I think, or Ali Marpet played 16. So their cohesiveness as a unit was a huge part of their success. They don't have that at all anymore. And I love Tom, but he runs like a baby giraffe. If you can get up to pressure on him right up the gut, that's what the Broncos did those years, 2014, 2015, when they were beating them up with that no-fly zone and Von Miller and everybody else coming off the edge there, Shaq Barrett. That's the way to slow them down. I think the Saints are going to make the playoffs this year. I don't think it's much of a question.
All right, so the Saints fans will love to hear that. Trey, we'll need to get you out of here.
After the Jason David stuff, I felt bad about it.
But before we let you go, do you have an official Super Bowl pick, a AFC team, NFC team, and a champion?
I always everywhere you go, they want you to do this, and my question is always well, who's healthy? Like, that dictates it more than anything, right? Like, who's healthy? I would not have picked the Rams and the Bengals last year. The Bengals, I think, had the third worst odds to make it to the postseason last year, and they win the AFC, and they won the AFC in one of the flukiest runs of all time. So if you're asking me to go out there on a limb, beat Kansas City. Beat Kansas City, and then I'll believe you. It was a fluky game last year. Kansas City has hosted the AFC Championship 4 straight years. That's never happened. The Steelers of the 70s didn't do that. The Cowboys of the 90s didn't do that. The Niners of the 80s didn't do that. The freaking Patriots of the aughts have never done that. So if the game is somewhere else besides Kansas City, then I think that team will win. games back in Kansas City. I think Kansas City's going back there for the AFC. The NFC is probably maybe a 4-team race. Rams, Niners, Bucks, and then a wild card team that's in there. I don't know who that's going to be. I'm a little lower on Green Bay than a lot of people are because I think it's going to be a little more difficult than people think. But it's funny. The last 2 years, the NFC has won the Super Bowl, but the AFC is so deep. It's so much more difficult to get there out of the AFC than it is the NFC.
Absolutely. Well, Trey, appreciate you joining us, and happy football season.
Let's go. I'm excited. We'll talk to you guys throughout the season.
Diatribe Derry salutes you, Trey.
There you go. Love it, guys. Take care.
See you later.
Thank you, Trey.
Our thanks to Trey Wingo for stopping by. He is a Trends ambassador for Caesar Sportsbook and a Trends officer, I think it is, or an ambassador, one of the two. And also former ESPN SportsCenter anchor, of course. Always love his takes. Guys, when he came on, I was just about to give my Super Bowl pick. I'm torn so many different ways. And I like what Trey said at the end there because I don't really like anybody out of the NFC to win the Super Bowl. Somebody's going to get there and have a chance. So I'm going to say Green Bay gets there just because sooner or later they keep playing these games. They're going to find out a way. So I'll say Green Bay gets there and loses to the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win a second Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. I think that they knew what they were doing when they traded away Tyreek Hill because everybody's playing that two deep safety look against him anyway. And so now it's difficult for Tyreek Hill to make as big of a difference. They were able to improve the rest of the team. I think KC will find a way to beat the Packers in the Super Bowl. But I will give you a long shot pick too. Keep an eye on the Indianapolis Colts. I bet them to win the Super Bowl. Look.
Here we go.
They were this close.
You want to talk about another team the media loves.
They were this close to getting into the playoffs last year with Carson frickin' Wentz at quarterback.
Matt Ryan's not that much better.
Matt Ryan is much better than Carson Wentz. He's much better than Carson Wentz.
You ever saw him play in December?
Well, he did win an NFC championship once upon a time and had a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl.
And then what happened?
Well, then I put that on the coaching staff more than I put that on Matt Ryan. But, there's a lot. There was a lot that happened after that Saints fans would love to rehash. But I'll say, take a look at the Colts, man. I think there's a chance that – and take a look at the Ravens. You want to talk about quarterbacks or something to prove. Lamar Jackson's going ham this year. I don't – Spencer, do you agree with that?
I think he'll do pretty well. I mean, he'll put up some big numbers. It's just their running game scares me. They don't have enough running backs.
He is the running game.
I know he is, but that's what scares me. He's going to have to do so much. I'm scared that he might get hurt again.
I will say, I think Trey's right. I think what the Ravens want to do with Lamar Jackson is franchise tag him for a couple more years. And then, look, running quarterbacks have a short shelf life. At that point, he's 7-8 years into his NFL career.
Which is kind of crappy.
It is.
I mean,
but it's business.
You can ruin the dude, really.
Yeah. Look, the Washington football team, the Redskins, did it to Robert Griffin III. I mean, it was a shorter time frame, but these guys have a short shelf life.
By the way,
he was. Yeah.
Okay.
He was.
Well, don't call them the football team. Either call them the current Commanders or.
I switched and called them what they were called then, but we all know who we're talking about.
Yeah, and then they did the franchise thing with Kirk Cousins.
Right. And then Cousins finally worked his way out.
And Zach, real quick before we go, I think I agree with Trey about a surprise team in the NFC. I think if it's not the Niners, who a lot of people do like, I think the Vikings could be one of that surprise team. I really am bullish on Minnesota this year. Like you like Indianapolis. I think I feel the same way about Minnesota because I'm not as down on Kirk Cousins as a lot of people are. He gets too much flack. I think Kirk Cousins gets a bad rap, and I'm not 100% sure why. He's had so many bad things happen to the teams that he's been on through the years, and I think this year, if Dalvin Cook can just stay healthy for 14, 15 games, just with the weapons he has, to me, Justin Jefferson could be the best receiver in football. Adam Thielen is really good. KJ Osborne's going to be good. They got other weapons there as well.
Yeah.
I just think the Vikings are really good.
Look, I'm with you on the Vikings. I almost made it Vikings and Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I just think it's a year where the Packers are going to finally have a worse regular season and then get to the Super Bowl. That's because that sort of stuff happens.
Super Bowl rematches.
That is true. All right, before we go, and I know this episode's going long, but we do want to unveil our new Big Bucks game for the new season. Last year it was Jim, myself, and Devin Jackson. This year, Spencer the Guru is in, and last year Devin was the Big Bucks champ, so the throne has been abdicated. One of us is going to be the new champion. It probably won't be Jim, but maybe. So here are the Big Bucks rules. We start with a balance of $1,000. Imaginary money, of course. 5 picks each week. Last year we went a little crazy, did like 8 to 10 picks. Just 5. It can be any sport. Most are going to be football, but you want to throw a baseball playoff game in there when we get to that, that's fine. Or an NBA game. It has to be Thursday through Monday because we're gonna add them up on Monday. Max of $110 wagered each week. You have to have a best bet of the week that is higher than all of your others. Your other picks have to include a favorite, an underdog, and a total. So a best bet, a favorite, an underdog, a total. Last one can be a wild card, can be anything. Each week's winner gets to be Caesar for the day. We'll get the glasses and the goblet out. And if you run out of money, Jim, you get the dunce cap this year. I'm going to go to the dollar store and get one. Them's the rules.
What about when you run out of money? Because I'll make sure I have 1 cent left. I'll never run out of money. I'll bet 2 cents on a game.
Now, minimum bet is $1.
Okay,
minimum
well then I'll make sure that I go down the last week of the season. I'll have $6 left. I promise you.
I'll wear my dunce cap. I'm okay with that. I'll take my medicine if I'm that bad. Okay, this week's Big Bucks picks. We should call them Big Bucks bets just so I screw it up every week.
Triple B.
Spencer, the Guru, your first Big Bucks picks. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I got the Ravens is the best bet. You know, we talked a lot about Lamar Jackson. I'm thinking he's going to set the tone and do really well against the Jets, who are starting. Really? Joe Flacco? Come on, man. That spread should be wider than me. I know the Ravens on the road, but that isn't going to matter. They're going to blow them out, I think. And then we talked about Trap? We'll see. I don't. That to me is pretty straightforward. Alabama, I know it's a lot of points, but I'm laying the points there. I'll take them. You know, I think they're going to win, like I said, by 21 plus 3 or more touchdowns. And my underdog, the Steelers, I think they'll cover that against the Bengals. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to have his best performance against that ferocious pass rush. And the under for the totals got an under. Patriots, Dolphins. I know Jim had mentioned he likes the Patriots. I do too. I think their defense is going to keep this one fairly low score and don't see Tua going off. And then for my wild card play, a money line parlay, a couple of dogs here that I think are going to pull through. The Jags over the Commanders and then Baylor over BYU. Hoping that one hits because I believe it was like a 4-1 payoff if it does.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier we don't have a lot of time, but I like BYU in that game at home. I think they got a trap laying in Provo for Baylor. Jim, your Big Bucks picks for week 1.
Well, my best bet is I've already talked about it. Cowboys, Bucks. I think the line is skewed here, and I think it's maybe the best value on the board. So Cowboys plus 2.5 is my $33 pick. My favorite pick, it's not my favorite pick. It is my favorite because I don't have a lot of favorites this week. But one favorite I do like, and I hate going against my golden rule of betting against a home dog in a division game, but I just don't see how the Colts don't blow out the Texans. The Texans are really, really bad. I'm not as high on the Colts as you are, Zach, but I do think they're a good football team, and I think that Matt Ryan and Jonathan Taylor are going to come out fast, and I think they're going to win this one going away. My underdog pick, I love the Vikings. I've been saying for a couple months now that this Week 1 game was the most important Week 1 game of the week. We're going to be able to tell a lot about the NFC North in just this one game. It doesn't kill either team, but I think it goes a long way to telling us if there's a new sheriff in town, and I think the Vikings could be that. Vikings at home, plus 105 is a money line pick. The total, I've already talked about the Lions, Eagles over 48.5. That is going to be on the Red Zone channel all day long. And my wild card pick is a teaser. Surpriser anyone that watched my Big Bucks picks last year. I like the 49ers and the Ravens going down to basically they just got to win the football game. And I like both of those teams, 49ers against the Bears, and the Ravens are playing the New York Jets. Although I do think that game is going to be closer than people think because I think that all that crap that's going on in Baltimore is going to affect play there. I think it may affect Lamar Jackson going forward as well.
Could happen. My Big Bucks picks for the week, a little bit similar to Jim, which scares me, at least on that teaser at the bottom. I have the Niners I'm teasing them with the Vikings. I think you give the Vikings more than a touchdown. That's money in the bank. So all we got to do is have the 49ers not get upset by the Bears. My best bet of the week, I'm going to go down the board a little bit here, but guys, this line is 10 points off in my book. San Jose State averaged 1.7 yards per carry and barely escaped against Portland State in their opener. Now they got to go all the way across the country to Auburn, and you're telling me an SEC team only needs to win by 24 points to cover this spread?
I like that.
I don't love Auburn, but come on. I will lay 23 all day long. Also staying in the SEC for my favorite, I think App State gets a little bit overvalued after the crazy game last week. I think A&M gets a little bit undervalued because they played a snoozer. But look, they're just better. They got a much better defense than North Carolina does. And so I think they shut App State down, win that game by 3 touchdowns. My underdog, you talked about him, Spencer, the Jags at the Commanders. I think the Jags are on the come up. The Commanders are a complete mess. Don't like them at all. And that defensive line will make Carson Wentz's day rough. And then my total is tonight, Bills-Rams over 52. I talked about this in the open. I think we see some points. I think the NFL gets a nice explosive show to open its season tonight. One more thing we got to do, Saints-Falcons. I'm going to go ahead and take the Saints against the spread by just a tiny little bit because I do think they're better. But boy, it's tough, isn't it, Jim?
It is really tough. I hope you're right. I hope you and Spencer are both right. I think it's going to go down to the wire. I think that the fair weather fans are going to be calling this an ugly win and crying on Monday. And the same people that think they're going to go 15-2, or now they're going to say they're going to go 8-9, even after a win. It's going to be that kind of game. And then the Saints come out and play well against Tampa Bay in their home opener. So we'll see. I hope you guys are right. I just hope the Saints win because I know, Zach, your knockout pick is the Saints, and we don't want to lose that in week 1.
I will say I'm going to be nervous during that game. I'm not really a Saints fan per se, but I have Saints win total over, Saints division win total over, Saints to win the division, and then also that knockout pick you talked about. So I'm not putting any more money on Saints minus 5.5. I got enough on that team winning that game.
By the way, Spence, your boy Kyle Brister has changed his score on the Saints Falcons. I don't know. It was like 40-10 the other day. Now it's 49-7. So he must have some intel we don't know about. I promise you, it will not be 49-7. The Saints will not score in the 40s this weekend. If they score in the 30s, I'll be surprised, much less the 40s.
If they're going to score in the 30s, they need at least 1 or 2 defensive or special teams touchdowns. Because
it's not going to happen.
I don't even think they're going to run the offense with that in mind. I just think they're going to be a little conservative. But like I said, a lot riding on them for me this week. Kyle also said earlier, he said he picked the Bears to win the NFC North. So show us that ticket if you bet that, buddy. Because that'll
Spence, do yourself a favor. Do not go around your buddy the day before you get randomly drug tested. Okay. That's just a word of advice. That's all I'm going to say.
On that note,
Datitude Live tomorrow morning.
Datitude Live tomorrow morning. Check out the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. This show's live every 4 o'clock Monday and Thursday on that channel, as well as the Fantasy Roundup on Tuesday afternoon. If you miss a show, you miss part of it, you can also go back and watch it. And James Carville, Cashing In with Carville, gives his picks in his unique style every Thursday as well. And if you haven't already, NOLA.com/Caesars got a special offer for you. First bet risk-free up to $1,250. If you miss it, you get that bonus money back in your account. So check that out at NOLA.com/Caesars. Until Monday, we'll wrap this whole weekend up and talk about how right or wrong we all were and how right or all wrong Kyle Brister was. Because that's what we all want to know. He's got the Texans to win the AFC South and the Bears to win the NFC North.
It says the Jags won't win a game. Yeah.
Cats and dogs are flying, and I guess we'll find out starting this weekend.
Commanders Texans Super Bowl.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. NFL starts tonight. Anything's possible. Thanks for watching Bayou Bets.